Efendim Kenan Rıfai hocam, ey mazhar-ı mürşitte tecelli eden Allah buyuruyor. Çok güzel bir anlatımla veliyi anlattılar. Hazreti Mevlana'nın Mesnevisine başlayanlar çok iyi bilirler, şerh edecekleri zaman söylemimi hoş görün, Farsçayı çok bilmiyorum. Derler ki, tume gûmâ râbedan şehbarnist, ba keriman kâruha düşvarnist. Sakın benim o yüksekliklere çıkmaya gücüm yok deme. Anlatılan veli gibi birinin eteğine yapış, ondan ayrılma, o seni çıkarır. Gene hocamın da bize sık sık hatırlattığı, yektemi sohbet be merdanı hüda, bihteret satsal budem dertuka. Bir dem Allah merdiyle sohbet, yüzyıllarca ibadetten daha güzeldir. Allah veliyi anlamayı, tanımayı, idrak etmeyi cümlemize nasip etsin inşallah. Şimdi efendim çok sevgili bir derviş profesör bugün bize İkbal Enstitüsü'nden bir profesörün bir tebliğini kendileri okuyacaklar. Omid Safi. İnşallah anlamamızı Allah nasip etsin efendim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I have the wonderful honor of sharing with you some of the insights of a paper from our very learned Pakistani friend, Muhammad Suhail Omar. I'm not going to read the paper for you word for word, but I will try to the best of my abilities to share its fruits with you. And if there's something beautiful that you hear, please attribute that to the author, inshallah. So the subject of the paper is about where you are and where we are in Konya and in Turkey. The fact that the two greatest saints that our tradition of Islam and tasawwuf have produced, Shaykh al-Akbar Muhyiddin ibn Arabi and Hazrat Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, met here, lived here, and have left their legacy in this place. The paper is exploring the connection between the legacy of these two great awliya. Dr. Omar is exploring the traditions of Wahdat al-Wujud and what is the legacy of Wahdat al-Wujud in the teachings of Ibn Arabi and Wahdat al-Wujud in the teachings of Mawlana. So let's begin by looking at the fact that the two teachings, Mawlana oftentimes is associated with love, with ashq, and Ibn Arabi oftentimes with ma'rifat. What is ma'rifat? Right? Ma'rifat comes from arafa, from the idea of knowing something very closely. It is not knowing something in your head. It's not ilm. It's not that kind of rational science. It's knowing something in your gunul, knowing something in your heart. It is very much like the knowledge that babies have, that children have. Those of you that have children, you know, if you give your child an apple, ilma, they don't look at it the way that an Aristotelian philosopher would. They don't hold the apple and say, I behold an apple. What comes first, the appleness or the wujud? What does a baby do when you give them an apple? They put it immediately in their mouth. Zawq, tasting. They know by taking it inside themselves. They know by tasting it. This is ma'rifat. This is because they have just come from that other place and everything is fresh for them. And we know if you look at some of the hadiths of Hazrat Payghambar, when he is talking about his communication with Hazrat Allah, كُنْتُ كَنْزًا مَخْفِيًّا فَأَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ أُعْرَفَ. I, God, used to be a hidden treasure, But I loved, أحببت, I loved أن أعرف, to be known closely. So already in the teaching of Hazrat Payghambar, we have love and this kind of close knowledge linked together. And what we're talking about today is also bringing together this kind of ma'rifat and this kind of ashq, inshallah. In the paper that Dr. Omar has written for us, he goes back to some of the very early teachings of Islam and talks about the fact that even before there was the term wahdat wujud, the oneness of being, the unity of existence, the teaching was present. The teachings were present. So we hear from Imam Ali saying that even the statement, God is one, is not a simple statement. It operates at many different levels. He also cites Ma'ruf Karhi by saying that even the Shahada really means that there is nothing in wujud except for Allah. Nothing truly exists except for Allah. And we hear this in the traditions of many of the awliya who remind us that in the beginning there was Allah and there was nothing other than Allah. In the end, there will be Allah and there will be nothing other than Allah. And here's the mystical recognition. They say, and it is now as it was then. Even now, here and now, in this very room, there is truly, from that level, only Allah. Right? Now, how do we account for this? How do we explain this? I am sitting here, I'm speaking into a microphone, my teacher is next to me, you all are sitting here. How do we become mindful of the fact that we exist? There is a person here, there is a body here. You are hearing some words, and in reality, to the extent that we are, it is only through the wujud of Allah. One of the teachings of the awliya that in both of these traditions they're talking about is that we don't even understand tawheed. We don't even understand unity because we think that tawheed is about Allah. We can't make Allah one. He is already one. Who is in need of tawheed? Not Allah, but us. We are the ones who are broken. We are the ones who are scattered. We are the ones that our bodies are sitting here, but half of our mind is in what happened yesterday, and half of our mind is in what will happen tomorrow. We are everywhere except here. The first level of tawheed, the first level of becoming an insan kamil, is to actually achieve tawheed inside our own selves. Right? This is why in the paper we hear the reminders that many of the early awliya, such as Qushayri, have a very simple way of taking this kind of wahdat wujud insight, not using the language, but turning it into very practical advice, everyday advice that everybody can take. Doesn't even matter which tariqat or which religion they are from. Qushayri's advice is, have your heart, have your gunul be where your feet are. So you look down, you see your own feet, you see I am right here, and then you have your gunul be where your feet are. Not thinking about the past, not throwing yourself into the future, but being here. Before you can think about tawheed and wahdat wujud, the insan has to achieve tawheed inside of ourselves. And this is something that we also hear in the teachings of Sultan Veled. So I will read, with your permission, one example. He says, عشق آمد و شد چو خونم اندر رگ و پوست تا کرد مرا تهی و پر کرد ز دوست. Ashq has come, love has come, and it flows inside my body like the blood. I don't live through blood, I live through love. The friend has come and has emptied me of my nafs. Inside me, there is only the dost. Right? So the first level of trying to become this kind of insan kamil is to become hitch, to become empty of our own ego self, so that there's a place for Allah to fill it. Suhail Omar goes on to remind us that these teachings of Ibn Arabi, these teachings of tasawwuf, are not an ism. It is not just a theory. It is not just a philosophy. We have so many isms in the world. Capitalism, socialism, republicanism, nationalism, right? We do not need Sufism. We do not need Islamism. Tasawwuf, in the original Arabic, Persian, Ottoman meaning, is not an ism, it is a process, it is a path. It's a process of purifying the heart. It's not a system that you believe in your head, it's the way that you purify your heart. Today you take 2 steps forward, tomorrow inshallah another step and another step. Right? I think this is a very important insight of our friend here. He then goes on to look at some of the teachings of Wahdat al-Wujud in the teachings of Mevlana. And very rightly, he points out that the term Wahdat al-Wujud doesn't show up, of course, in the teachings of Mevlana, nor do we have a clear evidence that Mevlana borrowed something from Ibn Arabi. But what we have is a recognition of mutuality. We have 2 great spirits that are drinking from the same fountain. So, for example, we can point to some of the stories of some of the disciples, some of the murids of Hazrat Mevlana, and one of my favorites is this new convert, Greek convert, Alauddin Syrianus. Syrianus, the name shows that he was a convert, and he didn't speak the language of Konya very properly. He always said the wrong thing. So if we go, we see that very often people call Mevlana Hazrat Khudavandigar, right? His holiness, the person in whom we feel the presence of God. Except instead of calling him Hazrat Khudavandigar, Syrianus called Mevlana Khuda, God. So we had some more conservative friends back then too, fundamentalist type friends back then, and they took him to the judge and they say, this man isn't kafir. He calls Mevlana Khuda, God. Did you say that he is God? And he said, no, my language is all mixed up. I didn't mean to call him God, I meant to call him Khuda Saz, God maker. And the judge said, okay, now we have to kill you. Everybody knows that Allah is without beginning, without end. How can anyone make God? And this is the key point. At this point, Syrianus says, I say the wrong thing every time. When I say that he is God maker, what I mean is he makes God real to me. He makes God haqq for me. Before I met Mevlana, God was a word on a page. God was an idea. now I see Allah as haq everywhere. Right? This is the maqam of an insan kamil, that when you see the insan kamil, God becomes real. In that sense, I think there is a beautiful connection between Mawlana and Ibn Arabi. The professor is, mashallah, very learned, and he's got lots of beautiful points, but in the interest of time, allow me to be a little more concise and simply end with this point. As you walk around Konya, you see many beautiful spots. You can go to the Turbe, you can go to the masjid, the maqam of Shams, you can visit the maqam of Sadruddin Konavi. We know the place that in the Mevlevi tradition they used to call Majma'ul Bahrain, the merging of the two oceans, as the place that Mawlana and Shams met. But there is another Majma'ul Bahrain, there's another merging of the two oceans. And you are the Majma'ul Bahrain. Your Islam is the Majma'ul Bahrain. I always hear in every book of tourism, Turkey is the meeting ground between East and West, East and West, East and West. In Istanbul, they talk about Birinci Bridge, you know, the first one, the second one. It is not about connecting Asia and Europe. These terms don't even mean anything. The Majma'ul Bahrain that you have is that the best and most beautiful of the teaching of the East, Mawlana, came here. And the best and the most beautiful of the teaching of the West, Ibn Arabi, came here, and they mingled together in the Ottoman Islam. This is your treasure, and it doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to any of us. It is the gift of Allah for humanity. Know the value of your treasure. Cherish it, nurture it, share it with insan all over the world, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, how blessed we are to live in a place where we have teachers that present this Majma'ul Bahrain together. Thank you for the gift of your time.